So she's been with me a long time, and she's small. So hopefully, having her in front of me, I won't mix up the which is left and right. That's the idea. And then I was speaking with Geshe because the 21 taras, you know, they have these different colors. In Atisha's tradition, the mudras are pretty much the same, but they have all these different colors. And if you look online, there's like so much information, but none of it is consistent. So Geshe has a text that he's teaching from that has all the colors and so forth. So my idea is, and once we get through the 21 taras, don't be shy to poke me, is that once we go through all of these, I will prepare a table with the number, the name, and the color of each of these 21 taras, so that, you know, because it's hard to keep track sometimes, right? Taras has a lot of different manifestations. So that is my idea going forward. So we'll post that. Also, we have the final completed version of Dispeller of the Chronic Disease of the Three Poisons, the Medicine Buddha Sadhana, and also Khensu Delik's Long Life Prayer. A lot of people in our community, you know, we hosted Khensu Delik here, Geshe-la's uncle, former abbot of Seraje and Gyume. So he's offered teachings and initiations here, so that will be available shortly as well. In terms of programming, we are kind of right in the midst of it. After our short holiday break, everything is running. So we have these Sunday classes. We also have Yamantaka, Vajrayāna on the 31st of this month. March will be the catch-up month for Highest Yoga Tantra, for those of you who are following that. We thought we'll do Yamantaka right at the end, and then March, it's a short month, so we'll have a 1 month pause for Highest Yoga Tantra, but it won't feel that long
February,
if we do it that way.
February.
Oh yeah, February. Thank you, Dave. Goodness me, I'm a mess. Thank you.
Okay, when you said a short, month, there's
February's 28 days, of course. No, you're right. So at the end of January, January 31st, it will be Vajrayāna, and then March will be the catch-up month for Highest Yoga Tantra. So we'll open everything up, and
isn't
if you miss something, yeah.
February is a catch-up month.
Yeah, February is a catch-up month, Dave.
Right, got it.
Yeah. And so that way also it won't feel like, oh, there's a whole month without Highest Yoga Tantra, because we'll do it right at the end of Jan, and then February, and then March will start up again. Keep in mind we have a yoga course going. I think you can join late and get the videos later. We have morning meditations. And Dave, is your book group up and running again?
Yep.
Okay, and Dave's book group is up and running again, which is every Tuesday, correct?
Yep. And we're doing a Tara group practice tomorrow.
And a Tara group practice tomorrow, right? So do keep an eye on our newsletter, because, sorry?
Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga tomorrow.
Today.
Thanks, Manoshi. No, Manoshi kind of handles all our scheduling and the newsletter, so she's the one to trust out of the three of us. So yeah. That being said, also we have those group practice opportunities, right? Like Manoshi and Dave just mentioned. So we have Yamantaka every month now. Paula Chichester does Vajrayāna practice for us sometimes. We have the Tara, and I do Medicine Buddha once a month usually. So, you know, keep an eye on our newsletter for all those opportunities. And then I think I've nattered on for long enough, and I see we're right at 10 a.m. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, make yourselves comfortable, and I'll invite Geshe down. We'll get started momentarily. So Neil, the catch-up month is February. The catch-up month is February. So hello everybody and welcome. We'll just do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great.
Yeah, Kangatashi Dele.
And can everybody hear Geshe all right as well?
This way.
Okay, great. So I see we are 4 minutes after, so let us get started then.
Oh, yeah, Kangatashi Dele to Tanis Kangigata. Se Jachimbo don Tanekare, Lojo Yarndo Shivachimboyos.
So first of all, Tashi Dele to all. Geshe hopes that your minds are open and vast and that your studies and practices are always improving.
Oh, Tanganzo, Tanrichino Richa, the Talakasha, so G. Tash, Shira Latinita, se Goshetoya, Leva Goshetoya. So
one of the main purposes of us gathering together today is for bringing forth the wisdom through which we can activate the full capacity of our brain, through which we can activate our intelligence and mind. So when we do this, right, this will help to reduce the problematic minds such as attachment, and as slowly our wisdom waxes. Yeah. Kowaji sana? Ale, loso.
Mil Kowanji Sigare.
Ale, loso.
Ane, Telo, Tuchakaliana, Seto, Sunji Seto Pemare.
Trukshu.
Oh, to
Chichuk. Okay, right. Okay. Dinipadi ribe. Yeah.
Telo Nichakakalina.
Uh-huh.
As Sunji Gesung.
Usung. Di Chichuki to Zadiro.
Chini.
Achini, right?
Ade.
Sumpadi,
yeah.
Yeah. Loso. And so then if we look at how the sort of unfolding of the eons is depicted in Buddhist scriptures, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of all the Buddhas of this fortunate aeon. I remember some of them, so I'm going to call them Buddha number 1, 2, 3, and Kashyapa. My apologies. I didn't get a warning. Geshe never gives me a warning. So in terms of the first Buddha of this fortunate eon, he appears when the lifespan of human beings is said to be 80,000 years. The second appears when the lifespan of human beings is said to be 60,000 years. The third, this one I know, is Buddha Kashyapa. He appears when the lifespan of beings tends towards 20,000 years. So we did not have the fortune of being able to achieve enlightenment through the teachings of those Buddhas. Java Ali. And so we, however, have been fortunate to be born when the eon of the 100-year lifespan of human beings is still ongoing, and when the teachings of the fourth Buddha of this fortunate aeon, Buddha Shakyamuni, are still available for us to study and practice. So we have to seize this opportunity. And so, if you think about it, like in terms of all of these eons, it hasn't been so long since the passing of Buddha Shakyamuni, actually, and the dharma still remains. So we really have a very special opportunity in this moment.
Oh, right.
And so Geshe said part of what we looked at in Words of My Perfect Teacher last time in terms of these increments of time, there's said to be 18 cycles. So we're going to go into this in more detail in a future installment, but Geshe needs to prepare with me first. Mostly my shortcomings, right? So it's good for me, especially when we're talking about so many time increments, to see it at first. Yeah. So there are many cycles within this time period where lifespans are increasing, lifespans are decreasing, there's the destruction and the arising and so forth. loso
소지 봐.
loso
다 디질 때는 당간조 다 코아 동로 요래 스탠다드.
chatsongwa mepa so
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And so when the last Buddha of this fortunate aeon, Chitong Tambarwa,
Yeah, yeah.
the 1000th Buddha of this fortunate eon comes, and when his teachings start to diminish, it is at that time that this world system will be said to disintegrate, sort of in how this cycle unfolds.
다다도 디세리 원도.
Yeah. So there's a long time until that. It's going to be a very long time before that
야,
happens.
단다 소지 그자 그치 관할하야 그래서.
Yeah. So good you go true Karla.
Ja.
Jiba.
단다 가봐라 봐.
Oh, right.
단다
Jipa.
Jipa.
Jipa, right? So we're trying to figure out 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon. That means there's 996, right? After Shakyamuni. Oh, no. Is it 995? So Shakyamuni Buddha is the fourth one. 1, 2. Yeah, 996 Buddhas left who are going to appear.
아치 지능아 봐 이사르다 그거는 아치 좀 투이 이사르 됐어. 다 갈다기 있어.
Yeah. Came into Utsmaja. Yeah.
매매 찔라마도 봐.
아,
니 당기 지시에 사송았어.
Kare. Tomba chomdende. Jipare seposekyo.
이래.
Yeah, digya tamba.
야야 단다.
도 바치kyam.
야야 투이원 갈래 도와도
Yeah. So Geshe said we will check on this and give more information about this in a future installment.
다 된다 개자 못 왔어. 된다 간조 다 디셀 따와 이네 시도니만 가서 요르다. 가로서 다 디셀 요아쇼 거가 체쇼 다 소소가 여보잖아. 같이 못 차디요.
So Geshe said that it's easy to get discouraged, right? Because it's very evident that we are in Kali Yuga, in the age of the 5 degenerations, and those are very apparent, right? But from the point of view of practice, this is still one of the best times, one of the most salient opportunities to really do practice. So, that should encourage us.
다 가로서 도나 마토나 샤왕가마티 칼레자니 간도로서 르기말 따다 레차레스.
Richimasana? Asheka. Yeah. So if you look at kind of, all of the efforts that we have to put forward to practice and to meet the dharma, and you think of this as a mountain, our current situation is we've reached halfway to the top of that mountain. We really are halfway.
다 던디지 다 요한도도 만도 소소라 발만데 마디잔다 스실지도 만데.
So whether we ascend the mountain and go upwards, or whether we descend the mountain and go downwards, right? This very much depends on our own endeavor, right? On our own decisions.
단 뒤는 메라 기파레 저도 혼도도 동고네 마사 칼레테지 요 시그레테네 이나요 코아텔 간조 뇨야지에도 코아티게 내지 시그요 아레스.
So in this section where we are in the text words of my perfect teacher right now, it's a little bit difficult, right? It can feel a little bit like a slog, a little bit arduous, but in fact it's very important because it is trying to have us recognize the nature of samsara. It is trying to build a sort of weariness for samsara.
그거 소지 쪼된데 다 코로퍼 짤 투니버 진짜 짤 되는 자신이 디세르고 로조치 뇨레지 바레테네 다좀 고 토토요 말에 수리요비 깔아.
So you know the story of Ananda, right? He was one of the attendants and one of the closest disciples of the Buddha, and we know that the Buddha lived to the age of most texts say 80 years, and so we also know that most of the disciples of the Buddha during that time were able to achieve the state of a foe destroyer. However, Ananda was not.
어다 조 가르 가투스와서 코이실 프게페 아로도 마순 할레비 시침보테 따마도네 디그레스.
And when you look at what the scriptures say about this, they say that what was holding Ananda back from that fruit of the state of a foe destroyer was that he had not yet seen deeply, recognized deeply the faults of samsara.
어다 손지 코로 끝한다고 내 이세는 마고 받지대야지 알아왔어. 어다 텔라 디가 까다야나 있어요.
Yeah.
어다 디가 코로
Katayana nesayasana?
손지 지대사.
Yeah.
마고 받는 코로차.
Yeah, sap, loso.
아까서라.
Yeah.
다 디가 코로 강에 째니라.
Yeah.
아니 다 셀 강에 찔레네. 다 코아세야 될 까래 이나. 봉지 야보지 만두 손으로 돌했더니 고알은 인중이네 드셔.
So, of course, this was a problem because Ananda was the one who was present for most of the teachings of the Buddha, and therefore he was determined to be an important successor of the Buddha. Yet spiritually, right, he had not achieved this fruit of the foe destroyer that the other disciples had. So what happened is that the disciples got together and they created a situation that caused him discontent, that caused him some mental suffering. And through this, he was able to see that the nature of samsara is something that is unsatisfactory, is something that is problematic. He was able to bring forth what I call definite arising, what some people say is renunciation, and quickly achieve the state of a foe destroyer.
다 들으시는데 다 내서 뭐지 하이사 지지는 강에 쳐터는 뭐야 보면 이상한서 정신 세사라 님은 살만 놓아야 돼.
So this section of Kunzang Lame Jelim, Words of My Perfect Teacher, it explains many sort of difficult things about samsara. And so Geshe was worried. He was worried that people might get discouraged and run away if we only covered that section of the text. So that is why we're also doing a section of the second half of the text, in particular the chapter of bodhicitta on during each session. It's to kind of balance that out, yeah?
다 가서 깨져 못 와서 다 가서 된다 아니 니가게 되시이나래 다주게 되시이나래 다 가서 되시도요.
So, you know, all of us, our way of trying to achieve it may be different, but what we are trying to achieve is the same, right? We want happiness, specifically a temporary happiness and hopefully ultimate happiness.
다 대신 요도 마요 세상에 신다고 쪼대 아니 실로요요요하래 되네. 쪼쪼데 초와데 지래 돼요.
So what brings us happiness, right? Generally, we could say there are these pleasant external objects and situations that bring happiness, but ultimately we understand that happiness isn't something external, it's internal, right? We could call it a feeling.
다 던지지 자 단제근들 다 시시와야나면 된다 대시 자게 되라. 콘 된다고 질 빼줘요. 에스 칼라다고 질.
So then Geshe is saying that in some of the different texts, so if we look at some of the texts on the Abhidharma, for example, it compares feeling to a food, and the feeling is compared to like the bed of rice. 네.
다 될 여보 쳐도 맞아 건저 딱히 되는 듯이 되래.
And what is able to determine whether the rice is high quality, whether it is tasty, and so forth, or whether, in other words, whether happiness is achieved, this is determined by the factor, the skanda of discrimination.
다 세주가 논으로 세주 몸보여 다 되냐 할 레비 같이 뭐 이해는 수말이스.
So, you know, they're there within the skandhas, the aggregates, but they're also in the presentation of semdang semchung, mind and mental factors. And out of the various types of, out of the 51 types of mental factors, feeling and discrimination are considered to be particularly important.
다 느끼도 왔어. 다 던지지 이자 단 듯이 되가 그 체만다고 되래. 듯이 되가 초와대 여보 요도 많이 사한테 듯이 되가 내가 지금.
So discrimination, if feeling is like the rice, discrimination is like the sabji, right? Like the vegetable preparation that goes on top of it. And it is through discrimination, it can be a determiner of whether the feeling that arises is pleasant or not.
다 깨져 먹어야 된다. 다 던지지 이자 아니 가로서 좀벌레를 다 요다시에 대사요 저 되니를 뒤디야. 좀벌레 요다 뭐 요대야죠. 소화된 듯이 니라시는 요대야.
And this is also important when we consider our world situation, right? When the world is in a very problematic state, like maybe it feels presently, we understand that out of the various mental factors, it's feeling and discrimination that are most responsible for that.
어떤 아주요 로주 제대한테 좋은 듯이 많어. 듯이 따도대 다 보게 여보지 땡보지 로야게 제대로.
So our study helps us to make sure that our factor of discrimination is unmistaken, to make sure that it goes in a positive direction. So the study is for the purpose of developing that unmistaken discrimination and being able to maintain it in a steady way.
This one, or that the Digiza, Sunjito Jonji Sambas Kangi, Pumbonga in the Kuzaki, Dajalayo, says you not need the Japanes.
Oh, right. Pumbonga nangula ni
Or
matumintua.
says you nunilla.
Yeah. So this is also why the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas in their formulation of the teachings, right? You have the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates. And within those 5, only 2 of the 51 mental factors appear, right? Feeling and discrimination.
Oh, that the Digiza and Zezawa Nolayo, Zebi Zawa Chabado, Koi Geshe Sejun on the Toato, the she Loji Pimbo Jaws.
I love it when Geshe does that, and I have the verse in front of me, so I can actually read you the verse. So this verse comes from Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha Karika, and it goes like this: since they are the root of disputes and the causes of samsara and its stages, feeling and discrimination are placed separately from the heap of other mental factors. I'll read that again. Since they are the root of disputes and the causes of samsara and its stages, feeling and discrimination are placed separately from the heap of the other mental factors.
Oh, that the Shing in it, you know, you are the island to G.
So Geshe said there are other explanations, but this is one of them that shows you kind of the way that this works.
Oh, that Kivoyuna in Musago. Only Kangegona in Musago, that Zawanda way, that aging on the Tonio Checkers.
So they are the door to happiness, this feeling and discrimination. They can also be the door to difficulties or problems, and that is the reason we need to pay attention to them.
Oh, Tangan Rotary, Tangan relation.
So this was Geshe-la's Ngundro, the preliminary remarks, and now we will get to the next part of the session.
Oh, that 3 loans of Tangan to Konosi and Roy must say more.
So Geshe said because the preliminary remarks were a little bit longer today, with the meditation, we're just going to get right to the motivation.
Alengandro Hele, Genitali Seshua, Setsuma, Lutsuma, so much.
So bringing the body and the mind into a state of relaxation and peace. The body and mind are pure, the elements are in balance.
Timba Katunda Mandala, Java Noji, that's all. Notunda Manda, Timba Yava Noji, look by Yando.
We can think of anything disturbing the mind, the various feelings or false projections, as being like clouds that are obscuring parts of the sky. With a gentle breeze of mindfulness, those are cleared away.
Maybe no kata, no, Zoma, Gayuba, Jacheva, Nujita, Setim, Nuji, Oda, Karina, Chetopata, and so much.
Just like the cloudless sky is vast, clear, pure, and luminous, our mind, our fundamental mind, shares these qualities and therefore can comprehend any object to be known.
No Katumba Telco, Edo Kato, the Tandita, the Chusayo Martin, Inayo, Kari Inayo, Tangaros, Kibo Mosha, or was Tenuji, that's heading Tenuji so much.
We know that this cloudless sky doesn't have any particular color, it doesn't have any particular shape, but it can give rise to the sun. In the same way, our mind has no particular color or shape, but can give rise to the causes of happiness.
ka tumba zhe chu sa me ba no ji nga ro so se de ye ga le ta wa yin rong ye ra wa zhe chu sa ye bi no wa ji ya de ni na yo le le ji ne za wa yin na gong yong zhe chu sa chi mo de so ma ji.
Just like the sky is vast and empty and there is nothing to hold on to, any object that arises in the mind, self, others, house, mountains, and so forth, it lacks any inherent existence. It has an appearance of being findable, but if we were to look for that findable identity, we would not be able to uncover it.
Kale tsene tsawa ina zui baba shiwa no ji gong yong ko ba ge no du yo chome bi chowa ge yo garle pa je ba ina yo zui baba shiwa no ji ge sa chi du so ba ji.
Just think about the process of peeling back the layers of the onion. In the same way, if we look at those objects that we come into contact with that give rise to false projections, that give rise to pleasant feelings, if we take a moment to investigate those objects, peeling back the layers of that appearance of true existence, we will find there is nothing findable, pinpointable at all.
Zungi na koro baba da mada chi la cha shen da mada chi la ten do do chi me ta ba re ma do de chu sa me ba no ji kang ga ta chi ba yi so ba ji.
Just as when we peel back the layers of the onion, we see that an onion is merely an assembly of its parts, a dependent arising. The same is true of any other object. If we distinguish between its various parts, we see there is no pinpointable, truly existent object identifiable at all.
Tumba te ngo ne ta yu chu psu chu ba ji ge tian da ngo wa su ji kang ge no ngo lama kang ge ngo yin ba na no ba te ane ba ge rum bo chi no ba ya bo ji si ta.
So then imagine, from the sphere of emptiness that we have contemplated, in the center of this sphere appears a beautiful lotus enthroned. Upon this sits Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, the essence of all the gurus and Buddhas of the 10 directions.
Ro do nyon don ro yu zu me no ba ji o ta te wa do de ba shi ra do de ba tin ji chi tu ne ta ba shan ro ji de yo so ba ji.
Think that together with us, gazing up towards Guru Rinpoche, are all 6 types of beings, but with human form. Endowed with minds of wisdom and faith, they gaze towards Guru Rinpoche, bringing forth the feeling of refuge.
Lo ve tu nyen bi ngo ne tu ke hu te ne wa che le ge se na nga ge se pa do me ba ta ro so so ge sho re ma shu so so ma do
Hungle Vajrayāna.
ta ko se ma che se na.
So then imagine that at the heart of Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava is the seed syllable hum, from which 5 colored light rays and nectars emanate. These descend and touch ourselves and all the assembled sentient beings.
쇼 투명해서 빌레네 디저 강가 다 바비 버가 요즘은 파 샤바 대니 쇼로 파대니 저 주사면 봐 좋아서
You can imagine that these streams of lights and nectar, they enter the bodies of sentient beings and like a stream of water clear out all of the negativities and obscurations in the form of unclean substances, pushing these outwards and completely purifying them.
로베 코로 콤포미한테 셔봐 노지 좋아요 주고치다 다 손지가 콤포미한 내한테 샤비 숨베토 샤주지세.
And then think, just as Guru Rinpoche brought forth the motivation and achieved Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, so too may I bring forth this wish to achieve Buddhahood for all sentient beings. Meditate on bodhicitta. Yeah, so we will do the recitation now. So just a heads up, Dave, we'll do the regular recitation and the two prayers to Guru Rinpoche. Oh, the screen's looking a little funny. Don't know what. Yeah, screen's looking a little funny. Should I wait? Yeah, the screen's looking really funny.
You gotta find those.
It's okay, we can give it a second. Yeah, it's all good. All right. Perfect, thank you. Yep. Okay. Tumba chom den de de jin je ba dra chom ba yon da ba zo pe song ge je ba dang shab su dem ba de wa she ba je den gem ba ke bu do we ga lo gyor wa la na me ba la da mi nam gi tem ba song ge chom den de be ja wa sha kya tu ba la cha se lo che de kyab su chi ho tenpa chonde de deshin cheba da chompa yonda ba zobe sanje reba dang chasu tenpa dewa sheba jiten chemba chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladang mi namgi tenpa sangye chomden de pe jawa shakya tuba la chasu lo che de kyab su chi ho tenpa chomden de deshin sheba cha chompa yanda pa zobe sangye reba dang shabsu tenpa dewa sheba jiten chempa chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladang mi namgi tenpa sangye chomden de pe jawa shakya tuba la chase lo che de kyab to a short mandala. So ji pe ji ju ji me do cho ji ra li ji ne de gyan ba di song ge jin de me de bu wa gi zho gu nan da ji la che pa ri shu i dam guru ratna mandala kam niryatayami. So we'll do the prayers to Guru Rinpoche. Sorry.
Bungo gen yu gen o jan som be ma ge so dom bo la ya zen che gi ma zhen ye be ma ju ne je su zha ko zhu gan zhu man be ko ge gi je su da zhu gi jin ji lo ji shi su sol guru pe ma se Duzum sangye guru rimbo che ngunju gunda dewa jembu ja ba je kunze du du jabo se sol wa de so jin ji lab du se jinang song we ba je shi wa dang zang ba lungi zhu ba jin ji lo Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Sri Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Sri Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Sri
And we'll end with the refuge and bodhicitta.
Che dan so gi che nam la jang chu ba du da ni kya su chi da gi che nyen gi be su nang gi zho la pen shi sang gi zho ba shu che dan so gi che nam la jang chu ba du da ni kya su chi da gi che nyen gi be su nang gi zho la pen shi sang gi zho ba shu che dan so gi che nam la jang che ba du da ni kya su chi da gi che nyen gi be su nam gi zho la pen shi sang gi zho ba shu
So we have already brought forth the motivation and the visualization, so we are going to hop right to it. So Geshe said what we'll do as we go through the text is the points that are really important that he wants to highlight, we'll sort of go through those slowly, and then other sections which are kind of like more, I guess, branch, he'll go through those more quickly. Oh yeah. Yeah, tatari. Mare nga chena ngansu dine. Oh yeah, sorry. Rangre kim nang chiki miyanga ragi padang. Just mepo ya mep dire. So we are on page 46 in the text, about halfway down in the Padmakara edition. I got where we were right this time. That doesn't happen very often. It's like a feeling of accomplishment.
she so chu chu ramba shate tata na me ge lama chon de je rong ge pi do si mo la so ba tama yo she shi dila pa de tata ka ye ton de ye chon yo ma shi.
So we continue then. In your own family, each successive generation of parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents have all died one by one. They are only names to you now. And as their name came, many brothers, sisters, and and as their time came, many brothers, sisters, and other relatives have died too, and no one knows where they went or where they are now.
o ta te ji ya si wo ro was o ta no ta de gen ale ta ko yi ko ro jin da wo ji te ta de kin ro to te ro was ga ro so mo kan ga yu zo ramba ja te res.
So all of us, in stages, we pass in this way, and as we appreciate this, we see that actually this is just natural. It is the sort of natural unfolding of samsara, the nature of samsara.
o ta te mi sel kan ka le ji bo so no to ga mar das ine zo ne tandi so no to ne la so si ta ti ni ga la ta po ke tempo se na ma de po so ba chi ne yo na oni ta ti ga kan e cho me be kan e te nga zo kan e re yo ma res tandi ta na.
So Geshe said, as we go through this part of the text, don't think kind of like, oh, this is so heavy, this is dreary, this is difficult to think about. One of the benefits of appreciating these realities is it helps us have a sense of proportion about what the big problems in life really are. And with that as a stable basis, then the kind of small inconveniences that irritate us, these will be less upsetting, yeah?
o ta te de pe do yo res da ga pe cho du cho te kan e tandi so no to ne la ta o li da wo chi so cho kan e da wa za nya de yo na yo lo to da wa yo ra wa da wa chi da wa ni.
Oh, right. Dawa, didn't
o so cho kan e ji yo na.
Yep.
so no to tandi ka le yo na.
Yep.
ndi cho le te ne la no so pi tho ya tandi mo wo yung yo res.
So if you're having like a difficult month, right? If you are going through some struggle, some unhappiness, some depression, if you contemplate these particular teachings, right, that can sometimes be really helpful to give you a sense of proportion, and then those difficult feelings will subside.
o ta so yi na ta te si wo mo wo shu ni ta te ngi ne le yo.
So this is shared from Geshe-la's own experience, right? When he's had difficult moments and contemplated in this way, he's found that really helpful.
o ta te ni so wa o ya de so wa
Loso.
o ta nga de
Chukbo dang.
du ken sa chi te so ta ngi chi she ge yo na.
So maybe we'll pause here for a story. Geshe-la remembered a story suddenly that he thought he would share.
ando ga ta la ma ta ke ro chimbo chi do kwe tu bo jami pe mo chimbo chi was
Jami Pumbo
pe mo chimbo chi
Loso.
ani ka ni ke je she ne la ani she wa nga ma de shima sa do sonje do sonje sa ba sa ka yo ba choro kan si ki le ge yos.
Jami Midi Geshe Sonam. So this is a story of an Amdo Lama and of a Chinese leader. And the Chinese leader put the question to the Amdo Lama that, you say that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, they teach that there are past and future lifetimes. How do you know this to be true?
te serious te ne te ngi yo ge ge ji xiu tong ba. ko ro su ngi ne thong ta ta ni la ko ro su la ba res.
And the Amdo Lama replied, many of my teachers are holy beings, and they have seen through their great wisdom that this is true. So I have faith in this. And then the Chinese leader said to him, like, okay, so you're saying that just because they said so, it has to be true? How can you develop faith just based on an attitude like that? Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I don't
understand.
So yeah.
Dinso yererwa inedi kewangachi dangrawa kare de sepumendu.
Do you are was? You are yes. Tipo you are yes.
Okay. So the Amdo Lama asked the question to him, do your
mother and father have a mother and father, your grandparents? And do your grandparents have parents and grandparents? That was the question that he put to them.
다 보고 뭐 따마따마를 요한테 서서 빠바 라스 마다 디셈 디와스 저라라.
And how do you know for sure that your grandparents also had grandparents? Because they are long dead. And you say, well, I know that my grandparents had grandparents because my father and mother or my grandparents themselves told me so. So you hold that that generation was really there only based upon what other people are saying.
어때네 그때서 레레도 근데 대치 보여 말했어. 이제 그러 이제 돌 이제 이제 야야 뭐 요한에.
So this kind of opened the door, right, to have the conversation with him. And then the Amdo Lama was able to give those classical teachings on why there are past and future lifetimes.
다 됐어. 그때서 다 20년에도 얘기하면 됐어.
So he's not sure if he was able to bring forth faith in past and future lifetimes, but through that line of reasoning, he was able to open the door at least a little bit.
다 알았어. 리스마. 나도 라스군다.
난소 미 축보 당
다 들려 맞아. 롱아마.
롱에마 여레시네
롱아마라 제슈 페다던 좀비 메이 콘지 제다버 노종 달로 메게 하마 졸레 메바요 도마요.
Of the powerful, rich, and prosperous people who only last year were the most eminent in the land, many this year are already just names.
리스마. 다다 제슈 케드던 좀바 아니 파이 이메지 유드 저반도 노종 손페 다체 좀 다와 샤마 졸라고 예도 메 시좀 마시.
Who knows whether those whose present wealth and importance makes them the envy of ordinary folk will still be in the same position this time next year, or even next month? That's the next question.
다 대타리 왔다게 하면 단달로 미 가서 시워 통이점 도도 통이점 바르는데 왔을 때지.
So these reasonings, right, are not something that is far away from us. What Patrul Rinpoche is saying here, we can see this in our own eyes, with our own experience.
저거도와 어떤 저거도 타나 롱기 고슈 통송. 라루 철라서 봐 젖어 다다 젖어 예 대통제 좀. 탄 저 따나 못아베 로질리 만데.
Of your own domestic animals, sheep, goats, dogs, how many have died in the past and how many are still alive? When you think about what happens in all these cases, you see that nothing stays the same forever.
녜체 로자이 군도 예베 못에도 통제리 다다 마시바 리바 지조메 다티 조리근 로완도 통제조 로자 슬라 통제조 쳇데 지조 리바 먼저.
Of all the people who were alive more than 100 years ago, not a single one has escaped death. And in 100 years from now, every single person now alive throughout the world will be dead. Not one of them will be left.
리송아 다 던질을 따와 있는 다 여보 따와 있나 소소가 거서와 다 디세 투투투는 할 레비트니 그게 내자 첨부 컨트롤 첨부 셰도 첨부 가자 첨부 다 페도무도 소마그 요레스.
So if we think about this, right, if we contemplate these teachings carefully, the idea is that based upon our relationships to these very temporary beings, then having attachment, having aversion, having jealousy, and so forth, makes absolutely no sense.
I
want to go through my life in a relaxed way, in a peaceful way in terms of my relationships. Grasping tightly and trying to control or creating some problems, there's no point to this. So this reminds Geshe of another story of Lord Milarepa. Lord Milarepa came to a place where there was a person in this land, and he was causing so much suffering and difficulty for everyone in that region. Ale, Minyotra Sabodi. Yeah. So he was kind of a herder, and he took his herd of like cattle, I guess, upon the mountain Bachukra. Yeah, cattle, or as I said, he actually did say cows, right? You usually think of yaks, but yeah, so because it's cattle on the mountain. Jemila. Ale, yeah, and so Geshe was pretty sure it was Milarepa, but maybe another holy being. He accompanied that man onto the mountain, hoping to demonstrate like good conduct, to lead him in a better direction. And as they were talking and talking, then finally, Lama Dirwa, the Lama said, you know, I have something that I want to ask you. Yeah. So the Lama asked him, he said that if there was a group of 10 people that were on death row in prison, and they knew that they were going to be executed at the end of that month, would it make sense for them to be arguing and seeking advantage, or would it make sense for them to abide together peacefully?
So the
man replied, well, of course, you know, they've only got a month left, so there's no advantage to be gained from quarreling, so it would be better if they abided together peacefully.
So the
Lama replied to him, well, we have maximum 100 years in this life together, right? So if there's only 100 years, then what sense does it make to quarrel? So this piece of advice really moved the, what's somebody who herds cows called? Cowboy, I guess. It really moved the cowboy, and he became sort of one of the kindest, most upstanding people in the land. And there are many other such stories where through receiving like a very seemingly simple pith instruction from a great teacher, people were able to change their lives. Another benefit, which might not be evident from appreciating the nature of samsara, is that we can see we can see that there is a place to go where we can be free from all of the fears that we experience. And we remind ourselves that deep within us is the power to achieve that state of freedom from fear, right? That is what we're working towards. Sulasam. Lamachi, right. And so coming back to Lord Milarepa, as kind of Milarepa was coming to the realization of his mistakes and decided to devote his life to practice, the Lama who had taught him, I think like the black magic, right, to harm others, he said, please practice well and pray for me, because otherwise both of us are in danger of falling into the lower realms. And then from that, right, Milarepa completely turned his life around, and he became like a shining example for all of us. So these teachings on impermanence also help us to bring from the very sort of depths of our mind that joyous effort necessary.
디바 토치 못도데 잘 지바 통치 좀 못도데 제 태보 통치 못도데 류뚱 대제도 다니에도 시도 중에도 노도 통치 좀 못도데 태보 노다고 전부 토다고 슈벌렀다고 지워 하다고 도송아 슈번 자체다고 스통 공라요 저와 로버트 레조 롱기지 좀 해봐 지워 로동 로동 체도 주네 전노지 년년제 코 로마 댕아리 자투 노셰 통제 참마베 저도 셔도 저데 마지뻔이 마지찌니 뻗대바셨던 로
Tishash, right? So we are reading down, we're bottom of page 46, top of page 47. There is therefore absolutely nothing in the universe, animate or inanimate, that has any stability or permanence. Whatever is born is impermanent and bound to die. Whatever is accumulated is impermanent and bound to run out. Whatever comes together is impermanent and bound to come apart. Whatever is built is impermanent and is bound to collapse. Whatever rises up is impermanent and is bound to fall down. So also friendship and enmity, fortune and sorrow, good and evil, and all thoughts that run through your mind, everything is always changing. You might be as exalted as the heavens, as mighty as a thunderbolt, as rich as a naga, as good-looking as a god, or as pretty as a rainbow, but no matter who you are or what you are, when death suddenly comes, there is nothing you can do about it for even a moment. You have no choice but to go naked and cold, your empty hands clenched stiffly under your armpits, unbearable though it might be to part with your money, your cherished possessions, friends, loved ones, attendants, disciples, countries, lands, subjects, property, food, drink, and wealth. You have to leave everything behind, like a hair being pulled out of a slab of butter.
다 시워시 줄엔데 저렇게 만들어. 다 시, 좀 멀리 때이랑 갈래고 신도에 저래 맞도 템보데도 우유야.
So very clear, not much explanation required, whatever there is, whatever basis we think we have in samsara, right? It is in the nature of disintegration and change. There is nothing that is important. There is nothing that is permanent. Karilason? Okay. Not allowed to look at the book just now. And even when we look at seemingly solid parts of the earth, like the mountains, the hills, and so forth, we see that these are also subject to change. Even those things are not permanent. And we can see these changes, right, increasingly in our own times, right, due to fire, due to floods and water. They're not as prominent as they will become, but we see the beginnings of this. So when the world disintegrates, and then there is again the world formation in terms of the elements, we know that it is the wind element that first appears and begins the cycle, followed by the water element, and then finally the earth element. And then we know that as we come to the end of the time in this world, those elements will begin to disintegrate and come apart. So if even the elements are impermanent, then we know that all of the things made up of their components will be impermanent. And in fact, this is how cycles of existence are proposed in our traditions, right? That they arise, abide, and fall away, arise, abide, and fall away continuously. Right. And we also know that in terms of lifetimes that are arising and falling away, if we look at the 12 links of dependent arising, it is 6 causes and 6 conditions coming together and coming apart again and again. So samsara, due to all these factors, turns incessantly, right? Is a cycling incessantly. This is its nature, right? But what do we do based upon that understanding, right? We try to reach a state of cessation of samsara, right? Of kandesure, dene? Korwa di medrone?
그야 고알이 롱오지 토나
Yep.
레도 녀물 롱오지 토자소나
Yep.
그래 고인지 바 고나이다 강에만 두스다
If we achieve freedom from karma and affliction, we will achieve freedom from samsara, from this cycle of existence, and in that way, we will truly eliminate all fear.
다 드닝이네 고아 때문에 전도 얼마도 소설 다 보게 타야진도 왔어.
And once one has achieved that emancipation from samsara and that disintegration of fear, then when one looks at samsara, there is no longer that feeling of dread, right? It becomes something that is observed.
다 존재 선바수에는 다 예용조요더니 다 보게 타야 다 이제 내간 거 주요 왔어.
And so those seeing this, then those bodhisattvas, with this realization, they can set aside that fear and only work for the benefit of others.
다 대가디 용거래 세르체만 노래는 레텔라. 빼나 사베 메이치소나.
Di kadu yongeres di kareres.
레도 녀물 롱오토 바테.
Yeah.
이게 계속 대신도 하지.
It's like when that happens, I'm like, when what happens?
소소 미르와.
So it's like, that's not helping me. So if you look at the Pramanavartika, the treatise on valid cognition, right, the question is posed, when does that freedom from karma and affliction happen?
롱오토야 메바 말을 요아레스. 가디 요아레스 빼나 사벨 빼줘야레스.
And so is there freedom? So first there's the question, is there freedom from karma and affliction? Yes, there is freedom from karma and affliction. When does this occur? And then the text goes on saying, take the example of a seed.
So 사벨 투다예 뭐요 메세피나 셔타통 사벨 빼출치니.
Loso.
사벨 투마요 말에 때네 사벨 메이지소나.
Oh, yeah.
사벨 타마트 줘봐래.
The cycles of the seeds being produced, giving rise to plant, being produced, giving rise to plant, these cycles of seeds have no beginning. But if the seed is scorched by fire, it can no longer bring forth a sprout. So the cycle of the seed has ended. This is compared to the freedom from the afflictions.
다원아 고알 롱오세나 만도 레도 녀문 지바메바 레도 녀문 롱오토바 가디 용거레서나 다음에 통이 셔다죠. 다음에 녀서도 또 소나 데네즈도 다 고알 지바티 다 고주 사레스메바.
So if that is the example of the seed, then as we are cycling through samsara, perpetuated by karma and affliction, when is that state of freedom reached? What is like the fire? The fire is that wisdom realizing selflessness. When selflessness is realized, then freedom is achieved.
오다 간조 드리기 워치는 도사 요아레 오다 텔자라 담마다 그거 만두 다시 이제 조레 뭐도 조 노세 세코레 누아스.
So that is the happy place that we can go towards. This is how we do it, and we can see from these instructions very clearly that this does not depend on having wealth or a lot of external conditions, that this just depends on engaging in the inner process.
다 조제 고돈 주고니 돈이 다 보게 다 팅고도야레스.
And that process is through engaging in the two types of meditation, analytical and placement.
다 제고돈 주고니는 고 주바다가롱 게 초메베 초와노도 강가 보게 레카스도서 메바 초안도요. 저는 그 대신 이는 고 주긴도 왔어.
When we engage in analytical and placement meditation steadily, right, even in the relatively novice stages, so many of those unhelpful thoughts and feelings that arise, these will be cleared away, and we start to touch that happiness.
오다 알리케자 모토스 때네 소식을 토로 코아 코토고 내서 좋아요 받지 좀 마토나.
So
소소.
Yeah.
소소 코알 코토고 내서 좋아지 매나.
Yeah.
아니 전주 세징한 요래 지기 있어야 돼. 때뭐 중요해 말이세요.
So the masters tell us that if we don't understand, right, the way that samsara functions and cycles, then saying that I am practicing bodhicitta, that becomes like nonsensical. It becomes empty words.
소식 된다 타발 포게 타바 되니 로 템보 코알 ninju 로 템보지 매나. 다 전주 세세야 돼. 다 디게 첨보 관도 요레스.
if we cannot bring forth within ourselves a mind that strives towards liberation for our own sake, right? A mind of renunciation or definite emergence, we will not be able to arise that wish for others, to arise bodhicitta.
다 대이상 간주 니미자 조다 다 디코데다 조 인주 버려야 다바 되는 걸로 돼야 조지.
So this section, right, the impermanence of life in Words of My Perfect Teacher, it is really mainly designed to produce that wish, the mind that definitely strives towards liberation, the mind of definite emergence or renunciation.
어떤 저기도 와서 대용 어다를 못 와서 저기도. 아까래서.
Nganso di mardam pigi netsu di, right?
어떤 저서서.
Yeah, di rosas.
자 뚱처 몸빈 고베 라마 이죠 자바 지소요 처사메 데 트처 몸비 데 트처 몸비 뱀보 이죠 요보 멋지죠 처사메 좀벌리그 지지 로셰죠 다보 이죠 카까와조 지소요 체오메 타나 롱기 지바 쇼이 리죠 셔더 셔는 로기데 대자나 셈비티스 리 다자죠 뷰나 카 자초가 모데 예비 태보동 지바 사케 다비 리초 로시샤와 토난 지방 언어와 저요요와 때내 저바 이데 지말레 로시샤 토난 지바데 디다다 리츠자난도 시수.
So, continuing. You might be the head lama over thousands of monks, but you cannot take even one of them with you. You might be governor over tens of thousands of people, but you cannot take a single one as your servant. All the wealth in the world would still not give you the power to take as much as a needle and thread. Your dearly beloved body, too, is going to be left behind. This same body that was wrapped up during life in silk and brocades, that was kept well filled with tea and beer, that once looked as handsome and distinguished as a god, is now called a corpse. It's left lying there, horribly livid, heavy, and distorted. Says Jetsun Mila, so Lord Milarepa, this thing we call a corpse, so fearful to behold, is already right there, our own body.
어다스 뭐시게 만도와 어다 간조 로세 지바시사테
So that's telling us that that thing that we see is like so gross and scary, the corpse, it's not such a thing that's far away, right? We just need to look at this body and think of its future. Also reminding us that no matter what your status, if you're like a powerful ruler, if you are a popular lama, and so forth, whether your position is great or small, if you don't transform your mind, you'll face difficulties because not one person or one bit of wealth are you going to be able to take with you.
Pepikala Halevi Kuzuchora, Animatandi Levikala, Social Kundetandi Levikala, that Nojikala Shimbosa Kajapate, Matabil Rojichiles and the was.
So Geshe remembers one of his precious teachers. You know, he passed away following a kind of a prolonged illness. And so when he was kind of approaching his death and guests were coming to pay his respect, he told them to look at him very closely, and he said, remember this body that used to be fat and strong, and now it is skinny and emaciated like this. Remember this, he said to them. Right. So this, he was a teacher. This particular lama was a teacher of, you know, some well-known teachers like Chod Rinpoche, Geshe's uncle, Khensu Delek, and they said that, you know, this teacher, when he passed away, it was a difficult passing because the illness was very prolonged. Ale, sorry. Mari Khensu Delek Mare, so konso di trans one children which you don't then so yeah, that was correct. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this teacher of Geshe's uncle and Chod Rinpoche and others, just confirming that, that's correct. So he when he passed away, it was this prolonged illness and he was very weakened. But just in the short period right before his death, he went through each of the dagchuk, the self-initiation rituals for each of the yidams he practiced. And as they were going through the self-initiation ceremony, he would instruct the monks to pause so that he could meditate. And this, people were really amazed by this, because by this point his body was so emaciated and weakened, it was like there was no strength there. So it was quite incredible that he was able to do that. Yeah, and so then once he had completed the self-initiation for the final deity yoga that he practiced, he passed away immediately after that. So that was what his passing was like. So with our study and practice, this is the kind of power and capacity of the mind. So we are going to pause there right after that quote from Milarepa. And so all of these sections, remember their purpose. It is to bring forth the mind of renunciation, definite emergence, the mind that definitely strives towards liberation. And so the essence of the practice is, of course, arising bodhicitta. So Geshe would like to briefly turn to the section on bodhicitta. So remember that arising bodhicitta, this is a practice that incorporates everything that is needed for the purification of negativities and obscurations, everything that is needed for the a collection of merit. And the in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Shantideva states very clearly that no matter how heavy a particular negativity is, there is not one that cannot be purified through the arising of bodhicitta. And Shantideva states that other virtues are definitely good and wholesome, but there is none that is greater in power and capacity. And so in terms of what we covered last time, just a reminder, the three modes of arising bodhicitta and their sort of relative power, right? And so that brings us, so for folks who are following, we are on page 218 in the Padmakara edition. The section is classification according to the bodhisattva levels. And so Geshe said, most of us aren't on the bodhisattva levels yet, so maybe not so pertinent to us, but aspirational. Yeah. Once you become a bodhisattva, then you can pay special attention to these bodhisattva levels. So, classification according to the bodhisattva levels. On the paths of accumulating and joining, so I would say accumulation and preparation here, arousing bodhicitta is called arousing bodhicitta by practicing with aspiration. From the first to the seventh bodhisattva level, it is called arousing bodhicitta through excellent and perfectly pure intention. On the three pure levels, it is called arousing fully matured bodhicitta, and at the level of Buddhahood, arousing bodhicitta free from all obscurations. Yeah. So Geshe is just explaining why on these first two paths, right? So this is the 5 paths, accumulating and joining. We would say accumulation and preparation. That's what I use. Why is that a relatively limited bodhicitta in terms of its power, it's because on those two paths, the bodhisattva practitioner has not yet arisen the direct realization of emptiness. That's the reason.
다 제주 대사 도모네 데비팔 nomba만 비세시에서 다 냠볼을 파 부이잘 냠보 취 쳔보시 비카레스
Dene
사 도모네
Satambone,
사
right?
덤비파
Ale, loso. Younger Sundang?
사 도모네 데비팔라
Yep.
다 친네바시키 단자 마리파텔 다 네바 쳔보시 비티세레디오레스.
No, but so then the next is the first to the seventh bodhisattva level, arousing bodhicitta through excellent and perfectly pure intention.
Part of the reason that this is pure, Geshe is saying, is because at this point the bodhisattva has brought forth a powerful antidote to the ignorance grasping at the self. Tanzama riba nyambo shu chenpo chikyo re,
오 슈침보치기요레스. 다 대이상 가서 시도도 마서는 다 몸비 디세레디오레스.
So this is, if you think about the example of a fruit, this is kind of like when we say, this is kind of like when the fruit is starting to ripen, right? It's already manifested and it's starting to ripen.
다 사제와 토그리 다 레비다 냠보 몸보치 보고 부이자 몸보치 과 토기요레스.
Yeah. And so at this point, right, from the first to the seventh,
Already, one is able to bring forth many antidotes to the objects to be abandoned.
다 뚜마니라 녀바자니 니티 다조만 노지가 뚜마니라 파뇨바 슈 줘보. 대자니라.
Yeah.
소지도 전제 삼바수가 니라고 저 조야가 들리네서 요레스.
Jiangshu Senpa Denzo.
사지위니까.
Sajevinika.
알레 뚜마니고 초와 슈 줘보.
Jiangshu Senpa Yinayang.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when it comes then to the eighth level, so this is what follows. Geshe said at this point, many of the bodhisattvas, they are in single-pointed meditative equipoise upon emptiness, and that single-pointed equipoise upon emptiness is so powerful and blissful that actually the Buddhas sometimes have to wake some of the bodhisattvas up.
야야 다 되네 뿌이 바뿌이자 매바 추 첨부지서 차와이자 할 레비 다 보겠다.
And this kind of meditative bliss experience is happening because the bodhisattvas have been able to successfully implement the antidotes to those important objects of abandonment.
아그서마 어다 뚜마니라 녀바자바 대슈 체트안 바 다보 차니라.
Yeah.
다 텔리와 노야치자 손지 속실라지고 요.
So because that meditative equipoise is so profound, the bodhisattva might want to remain in there a little bit longer as necessary, and for this reason sometimes the Buddhas have to kind of rouse them.
어먼지바는 자와노치 고레롱완제 에세르 다 던지지야레스.
And Geshe said that this explanation that he's giving here is from the Madhyamakavatara, the text on entering the middle way.
데스마. 야 딘디바지.
Dagpa Sumgine Sudiro.
다비 사숨.
Yeah.
사제와 그와쩌와서 텔 다비 사세야레스.
So the three pure levels, Geshe said, are the Sajepa Gupa Chuparwa, are the 8th, 9th, and 10th bhumis, the 8th, 9th, and 10th grounds of the bodhisattva.
데스마 사제와 타마타마 텔 손손 손지가 미요 딱이야레스.
The 10th of the bhumis or grounds, which is the last one, this is sometimes given the name Buddhahood. Chubadi Sangyegi Ming Tagire.
손손 손지자 치텔레 그레스.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll see, so don't get confused, because that is sometimes applied to the 10th bhumi. Yine Sangye ngane mare.
손지레 조비 손지 마레스 아드 텔리야레스.
So how this is explained is that some people say, okay, a Buddha when you reach the 10th bhumi, but not yet a fully perfected Buddha, right? Not yet a fully perfected Buddha.
나도 저기 대진거를 요와스 장로 대 조비 손지 쪄된데 놀라셔서 저거 사대.
Ale.
조비 손지 사대 손지게네 될 것.
So Geshe said, when you see, for example, in the Vajrayogini practice, it talks about the fully awakened Buddhas, right? What that is saying is that it's not those 10th level bodhisattvas, it's really the Buddhas, the ones who have fully brought forth Buddhahood.
손손 손지 미또 게야데 제데 접발라 손지도 가로가로 나고 차위야레스. 던리체 도야레스.
So why is the 10th bhumi bodhisattva sometimes have the word Buddha applied to him or to her? It is because in terms of the activities that they engage in to accomplish the welfare of sentient beings, they are almost at the same level of what a Buddha is able to accomplish. Tanya Bodhwa,
Traba
Semjen
traba
Joba.
te inere zete te inere ta pen garo garo do chawi.
They can bring forth the legs of magical emanation, various cities and miracle powers they have. They can emanate different bodies and so forth. So in this way, very similar to a Buddha.
ta pa puja me ba zo jo puja sel ji ju ya ma res ta ina yo ko tan pa ya pa chang da wo te ji tan de ji me ba zo ji te de la ya.
So the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva, in terms of the objects to be abandoned, they have abandoned all of those perfectly. But the thing is that those objects of abandonment, they leave behind like a residual trace, or maybe we could call a latency. And those latencies are not yet completely cleared away.
Ta ni do do ni do ko pa cha shi do do kang ga shlo pi cha wa ina go te ja to ya.
So the obscurations, the the knowledge obscurations and the afflictive obscurations in their coarse form have all been cleared away. Jibni gibachak da tong yore tonda.
Mi yo ma res shlo pi cha wa res ta ina go te ja to ya ma res.
Ale. And bakchak yang pizza roa.
Yeah, yeah.
And the imprints left behind by the afflictive and knowledge obscurations have also been cleared away, but the door has not yet been shut behind them. It's often explained like that.
Ta go thama ja ba do ne so ji sa bin de tu wa.
Once that door is finally shut, then the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva becomes a fully perfected Buddha. They have reached the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi.
So ji tombo tombo cha ba re kara sina.
Huh?
Ta tombo so ji cha ba ro wa.
Yeah. Dene?
Sina garo sina so sina tombo go te ja to so na.
Yeah.
Ne tombo so ji ya cha ba ro.
So amongst us, whoever is able to shut the door not only to the two obscurations, but also to their imprints completely, we are the first one who will become a Buddha from those of us who are gathered here today.
Oh ya ta di so wa.
Lo so
Oh ya ta so ji sana jwa pum bi se she ta tang gi la so ji sana jwa ka ga me sa ro.
So you can see Geshe is just saying, draw your attention to that last sort of sentence here, and at the level of Buddhahood, arousing bodhicitta free from all obscurations. So that's like the state where you've closed the door.
Oh ya ta se she rong ge ngoi ya na ta ke zu ta ngang zu de wa yo ba de ke zu se she do de zo se she ni yo.
So now we come to the top of page 219. Classification according to the nature of bodhicitta. There are two types of bodhicitta, relative and absolute.
Ke zu se she la yo no se she ya wa ni de me ba se she do ju ba se she ni yo.
So then we come to the next one, which is saying that relative bodhicitta has two aspects: intention and application. Intention and application. So I would say that konda munsem dang juksem. So I'm just worried. Geshe was like, hurry up, Kadrit, but I'm just worried you'll get confused because these are different words than what we usually use. Intention and application, we would say wishing bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. Wishing and engaging.
Oh ya ta de de xian ju len ro de don ro ye xie zhuo zhi da xi ba da de je ke bin de ni ji xie zhuo ji xi ba sha xi su.
So wishing bodhicitta, in the way of the Bodhisattva, Shantideva says of these two aspects of bodhicitta, wishing to depart and setting out upon the road. This is how the difference is conceived. The wise and learned thus should understand this difference, which is ordered and progressive.
And
so here we see the journey to Lhasa as the example. This is just like us. If you think of getting ready for a journey for a vacation or a pilgrimage you're going to take, that's the example. And so this wishing bodhicitta, this is like kind of the stage of getting everything ready and packing and so forth for the journey. Once you have left your house and are traveling to the airport or wherever to actually undertake the journey, then you are unfolding the level of engaging bodhicitta. Take the example of a journey to Lhasa. The first step is the intention, I am going to go to Lhasa. The corresponding initial thought, I am going to do whatever will ensure that all beings attain the state of total Buddhahood. This is the intention aspect of arousing bodhicitta or wishing bodhicitta.
다 간조 때에서 시야도 거다 다 밑에서 때에서 시야 올리라고요 말이 되는 게에서는 지세 뭐 마토나 올리라고 얘기하면 좋아.
So just to state here that even this wishing bodhicitta, this isn't something that we should assume is like beginner or easy. To really generate this and bring this forth effectively in the mind, right? That takes real effort.
다 템포도 다 텔레주가를 가와라 왔으 게네지나.
And to maintain that wishing bodhicitta with some stability, right? Even more difficult than simply arising it.
노진 간조 브루셰시 답이 세시 밀.
Boro?
브루 신기 비시 신지가 나무.
Ale. Oh, right. Yeah.
진이래.
Yeah.
대답이 존지 세세가.
Ane nipadi?
빠빠데.
Nipadi?
존지 생긴내로 노루.
Right. So Geshe said the example of a sugar cane is often given here, and the wishing bodhicitta is like compared to the outer sort of skin and the initial sort of pulp of the sugar cane, and the engaging bodhicitta is compared to the very juicy essence within.
다 손지가 녹으노라 요아레스. 브루 버시가 빠빠데는 아무시 뭔가서 되는 거 코마데 니보데 놀러는다.
So it says this actually in one of the Buddha's sutras in his discourses, that don't be sort of satisfied with merely the taste of the sort of outer flesh of the sugar cane, but go to the heart within it, because that is where the true sweetness lies. So don't settle just for this wishing bodhicitta, but try to strive towards engaging. So if we are able to get to really the center, the heart of the sugar cane, that's where the essence of the sweetness is. It's the same with bodhicitta. So don't be like a small child just sucking on the outer layer. Yes.
라산 로아 다시 알레 유바세에서 너지 조금 돼요.
Sorry.
라산 로아.
I'm just reminding Geshe that we have the taras, and he says, "Oh, you don't want to go to engaging bodhicitta. You just want to stay on."
라산 로아 이제 좋지 가다소 소딱 따기시는 이서 로드슈든 로아다 센제 통제 주비 수지지 공부 토바샤이 체더 짐바동 츠츠스 제바고 젠디좀 소텔라 뇽바주 시라라 로존뇨네 파로도 쳔바 주일라 니서 로바는 로와 니타분 주바 존주제 세이.
So application or engaging. You then prepare the necessary supplies and horses set out on the road and actually travel to Lhasa. Similarly, you decide to practice generosity, preserve discipline, cultivate tolerance, so that's patience, apply diligence, so that's effort, remain in meditative absorption, concentration, and train your mind in discriminating wisdom in order to establish all beings on the level of perfect Buddhahood. And you actually put this path of the 6 transcendent perfections into practice. This corresponds to the actual journey. It is the engaging aspect of bodhicitta. Again, yeah, so we set out on that journey, and that journey takes the form of cultivating these 6 paramitas or perfections. Yep. All right. I know. Yeah. Oh, Dempa Jumba Metsang Todo Che. Right. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I missed that part. We'll have to go over that again. So really, in the beginning, we want all of our body, speech, and mind to be engaged in these perfections, such as generosity. And in the same way, then we practice ethics, concentration, wisdom, and so forth. Konda longshiden so chatsangwa yongwa shows the partero ches marbe.
Demba chaba meba ita lushi chaba baba do ngal chi yong shu to mo myo lu te ro
Ale. Yeah. Yeah.
ro
Dene?
ni bo ma chi da ni bo to chen ni bo kang ga ni ta ba ro ji ita
Yeah.
ni pa ba to to
Oh, right. So di kongso rangjing ki mepa samlo tangne dene parchin ngene chagire.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
direbe. Yeah, so Geshe,
ni
sorry.
ko shong ji se yo ga ro
Right. So Geshe is just talking about how these become perfections and also how these 6 practices are conjoined with bodhicitta. So he gave me an example. I didn't get it at first, but we had this, I don't know, a few weeks prior. There's a prayer that was made. Molam susons.
ta ka song mang ko ma no shil ke ti ti yo
He says,
meeting at ma je so
Manoshi Hakusan.
ma no shil te ba so so me te ti
Oh, he said that I gave this to Manoshi and she posted it on the web. So so it's posted on the web. But the essence of the prayer is basically because all excellent wealth lacks inherent existence, may it rain upon me. And because it lacks inherent existence, I will not grasp at it, but I will give it away to all sentient beings. I remember giving Manoshi this and seeing that it was posted, so it is there somewhere. So I'll take a look.
o ta tu che te ya ti ja
Yeah.
yi sta te pa ge nga zo nyo le ka nga pa su ba yong wa la ta ji do ma la ta chele on de wa che mo res
So we'll pause our discussion of words of my perfect teacher here, and because all of our practices require the assistance of a blessing, of enlightened activity, we will turn to our discussion of the 21 taras.
o ta do ma ne ji ng ne ta zo da wo ta ka se ka no ji nga zo ji ma le yo ke de jo de zo zo ba de
Yeah,
res
And so our discussion now, Geshe said, is taking us to the tara, who is the sort of main form of green tara that we usually see depicted in the center of the tankas. Remember I said if you go by the order of verse it would be red, but the principal one we often see is this green, and she's often depicted at the center.
o ta me ni to ta ka to no chu se di no ji do ma yu se ke res
And so her name is Tara Kadiravani. That means Tara of the acacia grove. Tara of the acacia
ta yo
grove.
ma me yen da che le chu zo yi do ma
Chok.
chu zo yi do ma chu nga ro su te ba
Oh, and the other one, there's another name for her, which is the bestower of the supreme Tara. She's sometimes called the bestower of the supreme Tara.
res wa o ta me de ya cha shi no ge ji se di no ya ro was di ji le tane tane ji ji la
Gompolon Jyoti.
ne to pe ma ra wa so no tu ge re
Right.
tane kan do de jo ka ro wa
Yeah.
o ta se di gan tu ju ka che
So she arises in this acacia forest. We imagine her arising, sitting on a lotus and moon seat, and she appears there green in color. So she jankur.
o ro wa o da de ji ta de mi ka le sha za ken jo se sha ji se de ji
Yeah. So you'll see. So we are on page 9 in the Lama Zopa Rinpoche translation of the 21 taras, and you'll see the first line, which is what Geshe is glossing here. Homage to you, Tara, whose 3 fingers adorn your heart. So this is, I'm holding her so that I don't get the hands mixed up. So it's the left hand, and Geshe said if you look at the left hand, the mudra is, sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. The mudra is something like this. Yeah.
ta di ge ken jo so de ko kong la yin ji pa mo ge ken jo so ro pa yo shi da
And so the 3 fingers represent kunchuksum jigpa mepasoyarwa,
ya
represent how the 3 jewels can provide refuge from all fear, can clear away all fear.
res wa sha za ken jo se de sha ji sa de res de le sha shi ya pa de zum
Yeah.
me shi ro wa
So that's why this is called the gesture of the sublime, precious 3. Sumdin sorwa kunchuksum.
o ta di no shi me shi de ya ro wa
Right. And then we know that upon this, right, there is the stem of the flower that blossoms by that shoulder. You can
o
see
ta
it
di
here.
ge me shi se ra ma de ji pa yin re ne yin re ka re yin ya ta me wa zo ke ta nga ka ga shi no ni pa yo
So it's the acacia tree, because the acacia is medicinal. It can help us overcome any sort of illness, just as Tara can help us overcome any difficulty. So I've seen some translations where it says Tara of the rosewood forest. I can tell you definitively that's totally incorrect. It's Tara of the acacia forest.
다 소모세는데 강가로 소모세가 요하다.
Yeah. 하고서.
제요하다.
Yeah. So Geshe said here fingers, it means all 10 fingers, but with the 3 out like this.
소메투간노바 제마 대토송아.
Yeah.
말리쇼조 콜로 제베 롱게게 저촌노 투마.
Yeah, so then we continue. Adorned with the wheel striking all directions without exception, with the totality of your own rays of light.
다 예빠투노라 딜 콜로요 바제.
Ale. So Geshe said that what this means is that, so the left hand is like that, right? And so left hand facing towards you, just so we don't facing towards you. The right hand is like that, yeah? The right hand is like that. And this one is said to be adorned with a wheel.
너는 콜로티가 다 게젠나가 파파 코로스파. 제제제지니요 바제.
And the totality of your own rays of light means that from this hand, which is facing forward like that, that wheel emanates lights of the 5 colors.
다 게제데 다 던리그네스 땡아로스고 다 통화 존지 일 템바 존지 다 강에 강가신로야 되네 손 도구야.
So it is said that if we visualize this Tara and just this practice of visualizing that hand going out with the wheel emanating light, this is tremendous protection and can clear away all fears and obstacles.
다 거바테 다 노지니야 다 쪼온다고서 그래 시마데 다 대 코로스에 따네 되네 어때 치치쇼야레.
Right. And so this one, Tara of the acacia grove, she or Kadaravani Tara, she is in this one, she comes as the 9th, but she is actually the main Tara that one would visualize usually. Yes, and so there's a story of Nagarjuna wandering in the acacia forest and encountering a vision of this form of Tara.
다 대오 다 신화가 찔러 걸어보겠어 있다게 야대 어디서 뭐 다 신화가 찔러 다 로아 센제다 로모모.
Yeah.
걸어 단 뭐도녀도 매아이자 로바치게 매아이자 다 강갈 로바치게 요사다 보지.
And so Geshe said also that this Tara, she abides in the acacia forest because the acacia forest at that time, right, was a very vast place where there were many animals and other sentient beings that required her help. So Geshe said we will stop here, and so that means Tengje Marwa, and then so that means next time we will do Tara who dispels sorrow. All right. So that is what we had planned today. So this finishes the session. If you need to go about your day, please feel free. But if you'd like to stay for question and answer after the dedication, you are most welcome. So let us lift our hearts in happiness and dedicate the merit. Jongjo zemjo rinpoche maje banam jejo rechi chewa nyamba me bayang gone gondo bewa sho tongni tawa rinpoche maje banam jejo rechi chewa nyamba me bayang gone gondo bewa Jambe bao jigdar kiamba dong kundu zambo de ande jinde de da kunji jesu dalo che gewa di da tamje radungo dusun shebe gyawa tamje gi ngowa gangla chodu ngapa de dagi gewe tsawa di kunkyong Zambo joji radu ngowargi Gangri rawe korwe jinganje Pendan dewa malu jungwe ne Chenre ziwan tenzen jatso yu Shape sude bardu tenjoji So first, rejoice that we have been able to engage in this accumulation of what is wholesome and the purification of what is unwholesome, of negativities and obscurations. May this accumulation of merit become a cause for all beings without exception to be able to achieve both temporary and ultimate happiness. So we'll pause there, and we can open the floor for questions. If you guys are of a mind to, if you'd like to ask a question, please go ahead. Steve, yes, sir, go ahead.
Good morning, Geshe-la. Good morning, Kedro.
Good morning.
I wanted to have a brief clarification of the hand details for Tara.
Yes.
Now, I understand that the right hand is in the mudra of generosity.
Yes.
And it has a dharma wheel on the palm?
Yes. Ganso chak di roa jimbe gi chaja roa ane di gangla chugi kolo dapo chigres kandes chigres. Yes, a dharma wheel. That's correct, Steve. Yes.
My second part to this is the left hand that holds the lotus.
Yeah.
The two fingers that are brought together are the thumb and the index finger.
Ganso chak jendag di roa kilkilgi. Is it ale? I'm just looking at di chiktosh. Can you see that Geshe-la's hand, Steve?
It looks like the ring finger
to me. It looks index to me, but is index this finger? That's not rude. It's not the middle. Beside the middle.
The index finger is the rude finger.
It's the ring finger. So beside the pinky, right?
That's the ring finger.
Okay, so it's the ring finger. It's the ring finger and the thumb.
Okay.
It's the ring finger and the thumb. Yeah. Geshe apologizes if he's wrong, but that's what he remembers from what he read when he was preparing. So he said he wants to apologize in advance if he's wrong.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries, Steve. Yep. Yeah, so the idea is to isolate 3 out of the 4 fingers and so that, it represents the 3 jewels. We can also think this is a reminder that Tara herself has actualized and is the embodiment of the 3 jewels as well. Yeah. Also remember, right, if a particular being has actualized all 3 of the jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, then they are suitable as an object of complete refuge. If they have not actualized all 3 of the jewels, like if they just did 1 or 2 of them, they would not be suitable as a final object of refuge. So, just to kind of give an example of this, those Arya Bodhisattvas Sachubae, on the 10th, from Bhumis 1 through 10, right? They have accomplished 2 of the 3 jewels, but not yet the 3rd one. So that's a practical example. So, interestingly, Arya Bodhisattvas are not final objects of refuge, actually.
But
if we think of beings like the Buddha, like Tara, like Maitreya, Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, and so forth, they have actualized all 3 jewels. Therefore, they are suitable as final objects of refuge. So then if you think about this like worldly deities, right, there's no question that those are not final objects of refuge. This is important to be clear about. So I see 2 hands. I see Dave and Carol. I'm not sure who was first. I think Dave was, but I'm not sure. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
Good morning. Hello. Thank you very, very much for such inspiring teachings.
Semkeagi sungshire terisa.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, great. So my mind, I think, went a bit too far thinking about impermanence, because I had this thought: if nothing lasts, then why am I putting so much effort into putting something into the future? Like, we're
Like,
trying
you mean
to
accumulating merit for the sake
accumulating
of
merit,
a good
exactly.
future rebirth type deal?
Yeah, exactly. So if there's nothing that lasts, then what is it that proceeds into the future that I'm trying to put so much effort into, if there's nothing that lasts?
Yeah. Ko dokpa saswa mi takpa kola samlo tangna rwa dene nganso maumbe gi kewa denso nganso gewa dang denso tsago gi redua di tsundru mambo go gi res ine maumbe gi kewa denso kongso yang mi takpa reduas dene soso tanda mi takpa samlo tangna pendok shedame ine maumba kola mi takpa gi neso chik samlo tangna karichene gewa sago gi reduas rwa dene nganso di maumba droya kare yena mi tapa yinsang dene maumbe droya kare chene betsu chegores
me ngaroso matabi roji dore tene ngaroso nga sa ate ko duya mandu kadigina deshi go was.
So the paradox here is that yes, everything is impermanent, but that we call the I, that we call the self, is ever continuous. And as long as that self remains continuous, so will this wish of wishing to avoid suffering and wanting happiness. And we say that wishes for happiness, that's every happiness, but in particular a lasting or ultimate happiness.
This one, what that tendency is that ko matabi roji inayo nga chipachi to konrogun to us, then the one rogi or nga chipachi to ready.
So everything in sort of the realm of this experience and in its aspect is impermanent, right? That's true, but yet at the same time there's this continuity of the self or the I, and hence that issue. So we can think of our own current lifetime and think about the impermanence of when we are a little child versus when we are like an adult in middle age, right? There's a big difference between how we are now and how we were as a child. Like our physical form, our situation, those are all impermanent, yet there's still that wish for happiness and avoiding suffering there, isn't it? So that's how we want to think about impermanence, because impermanence, when we think about it this way, it gives us perspective about our current situation, that actually still our situation is pretty good, and also this understanding that it's impermanent and ever-changing, but it is continuous, this I or this self, and hence that wish for happiness will continue. You chena? Yeah. Geshe said that if the continuum of the self were cut off at the time of the impermanence of death, then absolutely, Dave, what you're saying makes total sense. Like, why are we... But because the continuum is still there, that's the answer. Yeah. So it is continuous, right? It is unceasing, this I and that we call my mind, and before Buddhahood and after Buddhahood, that we call the self and my mind continue. So that's important to answer.
다 손제도 손제 선바서 이나
Yeah.
뭐도 비그 내서 대소노 돈내라
Yeah.
니가를 끼워 다투 끼워는 도토가 로는 도토야 되고 다 대조지래.
So it is said that the bodhisattvas and so forth, right? They are continuous. konsulkadine mitapa samutangere karisegyo.
세는 뭐도 비소노 돈내라
Yeah.
니가 코알 데비가라 요 끼워인바.
Ale.
끼워쳐야.
Right. So the bodhisattva's contemplation of impermanence, it helps them to be happy while abiding within samsara. Dene?
세시워스 다니 다투기 대시가 로라 요 뒤누파 도토야 됨.
And helps them to continue on that path towards reaching final happiness.
So when I tried to correct my own mind, that had seemed to me to have gone too far. So what's happening is we have this continuum that's continuously changing, and we have an I that doesn't exist inherently. So there's nothing to grasp onto. But the only thing that's really operating that we can have confidence in is this stream of causality.
Yeah, nganso gyu dang ken din so mutune yong ya dag seri di du dang ken mutune pa yene rangjin gi drupa mares. Nganso rangjin drupe gi nga seri di kelen tu gyo mares. Yene mutune droya gi nga di kelen tu gires.
어떡하래.
Yeah, mutune droya di.
야야. 뭐도 비 로지 이자 로지 저바디
Because it lacks inherent existence, there is no pinpointable, unchangeable self, right? But there's still a continuity, right? There's still a continuity. Yeah. If they were truly existent, we'd have to say that there's a truly existent I, there's a truly existent self, right? But we can't say that.
Right, so the only thing that really abides or really is there is causality. Because it's karma. The only thing that operates.
No, Dave, no. Continuum of consciousness and karma are not the same thing. It's not the same thing. No. Sorry.
So
it's, I'm going to get Geshe to confirm this to you, but no, we can't confuse those. Nanso sem mutune droya dang leje seria di dunchik mares.
되지 말아.
Yeah, Korean sen the sangye lene drowa re duas, roa.
Me 소지가 레네 좋아세요. 레도 요아레스. 이나에다 레도 녀모시비다 간소단다. 레니게 영웅 오리 요사.
Okay, di malap. Nanso di semgi mutune droya di dang le yewache sebo socios.
세계 요스다 레도 녀모를 베드 코르롱 토야 디와스.
Yeah.
디디갈 세 코르 못하는 조 도치바레스.
Because there is a state where we get free from rebirth impelled by karma and affliction, but even after that is achieved, right, that we call the self and the mind are still there, because that we call the self and the mind are still there for a Buddha.
단단 녀모를 주도 첨보 요아레.
Yeah.
세 못하는 로야도 요아치바라와스.
Yeah.
다 갈래 세 못하는 로거를 때 녀모를 주도 매바찬 로.
It's the same with afflictions, right? Like right now, the afflictions are perpetuating the experience of this self and where we're going, right? Those afflictions are going to eventually fall away, but the self and that we call my mind is there.
So from the perspective of cause and effect, there's, I guess, karma means afflicted karma, karma that is created because of grasping at its inherent existence. But there is causality that functions beyond afflictive karma, correct?
Yes, nganso gyudrang jebu nyomong dang ma jawe gile yerebes.
요리.
Correct. Yes.
So what I'm trying to understand is the causality that is not afflicted. This is the only thing that really one can have confidence in.
Dave, maybe I misunderstood you. Maybe I should make sure I understand you correctly before I ask, because it sounded to me like you were saying that all there is causality, which is you have to posit the karma or the causality and the stream of the self or the mind. You can't exclude one to the other. Do you know what I mean? That's what I was concerned. So maybe I misunderstood you.
Because our consciousness depends on the previous moment of consciousness. So that's a continuum that's based on causality. We create our next instant.
Nganso shepa seria di shepa nguma latene chungi yotsang roa ane nganso shepa maumba gi shepa di tandawa gi tanda gi shepa latene yongi yotsang di mutune droya di le labna digirebes. That comes together with karma, but it is not the same as karma, Geshe is saying. You can't conflate those two. It's not the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that me laughing? I was like, I heard a laugh.
No, that
I
was me.
Like, was that Dave? Oh, okay.
No, that was me looking at Rebecca, who's so eager to ask a question.
Okay. I was like, so anyways, but he wants to say more, Dave. So, and thank you for waiting patiently. We still have 10 minutes, so we'll get to everyone's question. No stress. Again, soon. Yeah. Yeah. So when there is consciousness, there is karma. That you can definitely say. Shepa yuna le yures. Yine. But consciousness is a separate category and is vaster than just karma. So you don't want to mash them into one category. That's important.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get to is what do I have confidence in? What can I focus on as something that is useful for thinking about beyond, a continual.
Wasn't that answered though? Like, because the self is still going to be going, that wish for happiness and suffering is still going to be going?
Yeah, doesn't really satisfy.
Okay. I don't know that there's anything else.
So what do we put our focus on? What do we grasp at as something that's reliable? It's creating good karma. Really, that's what I'm trying to say. There's nothing else. Or do we? I'm confused. So I suppose thinking that there's nothing that lasts. Think there's nothing that exists inherently. What do we have confidence in as a path towards happiness? It's really only the causes and conditions, the causes that we put into play now, right?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Nganso kariyana mitakpares, kariyana rangjingi drupale tongwares. Geshe said, oh gosh, now Geshe is giving me a hard time. He's saying, not everything is impermanent. Space is not impermanent. I'm like, can we not go there right now? So, anyways. Emptiness is not impermanent. Okay. I'm going to go have lunch now. Anyways, I'm trying to get back to your question. Nganso, mutune kandesla gure. Nganso, kari iche kesa kawa yures. Chatsangwa mitakpa yana, chatsangwa tompa yana. Nganso yiche kesa, nganso tsundru di trola madroya yiche kawa lang chetu gires. Nganso gyu saya denso mato yiche kesa chikya mundus. Kodi
kesa yoar sede mutana orendi was. Gawa kazasan muta chalan mutana zeba noji. Sede nyadi yo tikko was.
So Geshe said you have confidence in the continuity of the mind, right? Because it is the mind that holds the karma, isn't it? The mind is inexhaustible. So if there's any remnant karma left, it's going to be carried by the mind.
Sure, but if the mind is distorted, then I'm not really happy about that. That's not an object of confidence. It's the path towards happiness. But anyway, yeah. In a future day, I'd like to debate whether emptiness is impermanent or not, but that's another question, another day. Anyway, so go ahead, please. I'm done.
I'm totally confused by the last 2 minutes of your talking. I don't know. What are you saying?
Okay.
Like, so what's the qualm here? Like, I'm really puzzled because I found the fact that if we have that self and the I continuing, there's still going to be the wish for happiness and to avoid suffering. And because karma is carried by the mind, that gives us confidence that what we're doing now is not wasted because that wish and that continuum are going to be there. So I'm not sure what more you need than that,
okay,
I guess.
Okay, so that's not bad. There is something that abides, right? But whether it's going to be happy or not is a function of the karma, of the causality one puts into play, right? So that's what I'm trying to focus on is what is really... the only thing that's of any use is are the good causes that we create now.
Yeah, so Geshe said he wants to say something.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah.
Tini lasha jiraga roas.
So he's asking you a question. Last month. Oh, sorry. So whatever. Does it matter if it's last month or 2 months ago? Anyways, so I'm sticking to last month. So last month, Dave, you put in a month of work. Did you get paid for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, decent. Yeah. Yeah. So let's say last month you got your salary, it was deposited in your bank account, and this month you used that money to go on a vacation somewhere or to visit a different country for whatever reason. Yeah. So that is fundamentally what the answer is of why what we do right now is not a waste. If you just look from the past and future lifetime level, the effort that we put in our bank account of our positive karma is going to ripen in terms of a more positive experience next lifetime. Just like your wages from last month let you take a vacation this month. That doesn't negate that the wages or the vacation are impermanent, right? But there's still a reason to save the money in your bank account. In other words, to accumulate the positive karma.
Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
So Geshe said, that is what you were saying, right? Like, correct. I think, okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we can continue next time, Dave, but maybe we should.
What I'm looking for is a permanent vacation.
Yeah, ko takpagi gongsin gogire du sekitu. Yeah, aren't we all? Geshe said that you need to get the ticket of freedom from karma and affliction. Then you'll have a permanent vacation.
All right.
And as we know, on the subtle level, it's not exactly impermanent, but it's pretty darn long if you get free from karma and affliction. So I'm not sure who was next. I see both Rebecca and Carol have their hands up. So I'll just say whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Can I go first? Is that a possibility? Sure. I have a problem with the use of self and I continuing.
Yeah.
Because my understanding is that your karmic seeds continue, but your self and I, and even your mind, can be repositioned into your new rebirth. So I have do you say self and I continuing, meaning that, or do you mean something else?
So, dak dang nga seria di mutune drogiyores di dondag kareres. So kewa ni kewa legi sabundinso mutune drogiyores di dondag kareresa.
Me. Tanganzo tandaleka chote mozo ke ate. Akosarawa.
Yeah.
Nga se de ate ta kumba je wajaba noji. Kuba jenda sum no.
So Geshe said, think of the self or the I as the inhabitant of a house that you're renting. So when you come to the end of this life, you can't stay in that house anymore, and you have to switch to a new house. You have to rent a new property. And when you rent that new property, because the self is still abiding in that property, the same problem of wanting happiness and not wishing for suffering is going to be present. Right. So it's like the basis of the I, or the abiding place of the I. When our karma in this life ends, then the aggregate, and specifically the form aggregate, is going to disintegrate. And then, sorry, typing really distracts me. I'm not sure exactly. And so the form has, sorry, Dave, I'm sorry. It's my ADD, I'm sorry. And so then the form aspect disintegrates, right? But that self and that mind are still going to continue, and they're going to move to the new house. So think of your rental agreement. think just like you have a rental agreement, assuming you're a renter, for your house or your apartment, there's going to be a time where that rental agreement cannot be renewed. Think of that as being like your aggregates. So let's say we have these aggregates on loan. We have a lease of 100 years. And at the end of the 100 years, we're going to have to leave. We're going to have to vacate the premises, if you will. We're going to have to vacate the premises. Yeah. And so that's how we should think of the form aggregate, which for us is our physical body, right? That we have a fixed termed lease on that, and we're going to have to vacate the premises eventually. So think of the person who's leasing the house as being the example for the mind. The mind is abiding in this body temporarily, but when its lease is up, it's going to have to find another form to abide within. So Geshe said that, if you met somebody who could definitively prove that there is not a subsequent lifetime, that consciousness is cut off together with the physical body, then much of what we are teaching in dharma would cease to make sense. But not proving and proving that it isn't are two different things. Yeah. So the continuity is what you can hold on to, because I think this is Geshe's alluding to Dave's question. The continuity is what you can hold on to. Because that continuity is present, the unwholesome causes that you've accumulated will remain or ripen, as well as the wholesome causes that you've accumulated will remain or ripen. So because of that, right, that's why we don't just kind of just only chill, right? So did that answer, I think, I saw Dave nodding. Rebecca, did that answer your query? It did?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. And Carol, you've been waiting patiently. You want to go ahead?
Oh, it's fun to listen to everything. Okay, quickly. If meditators need waking up from bliss, isn't this a kind of attachment? And I assume that the Buddhas don't need that kind of waking up.
You're asking about the bodhisattva that we were talking about, right? Yeah.
Is that a kind of attachment? And the question, Buddhas don't need that kind of waking up, do they? Just
Bodhisattvas, you mean? Yeah.
No,
yeah, gotcha.
after
that. Okay,
full
gotcha.
Buddhas don't need that waking up thing. Is that correct?
Don't need the waking up thing. Okay, I gotcha. Nanso, nguma dinso. And then Marjorie will get to you. I see your hand there. Nanso nguma dinso kandislao gore. Jangchup sempa konso kandislao gore. Nyamsha khalepe shuk chempo chiklebdi disa jeparebe.
Yeah.
Jeparwa. So it's the 8th Bhumi Bodhisattva. Dene koronso nyamshak di degires mato jen sangi dinso konso yar se gogire duas. Roa. Yine sange yana ni segen chikyang gogyo mares. Di kare chene gogyo mares. Chiwa tire.
Ta tel ko pake ko akenda wo kanga tsoma tsuju so charo was chaso.
Oh yeah, ani sorry. Ni kuya dapo di duchak girik rebes jangshu sempa denso. Duchak girik rebes.
Decho rodo kechamares. Tanda dewachi gnesres.
Geshe wouldn't describe it as an attachment, but he would describe it as a bliss. If we look at the cause of this bliss, it is the clearing away of those objects to be abandoned. That's its explanation causally. Because one has reached true cessations, right? Within the Four Noble Truths, true cessations, this gives rise to a powerful uncontaminated bliss. Ane konso di tutsu rinpo de goyedi di dochak maribes. But the state of remaining in that is not necessarily attachment. Dewadang Jawa. Yeah. But it's like a form of happiness that is almost too strong. It's like a form of happiness or bliss that is almost too strong. Yeah. It's similar to those foe destroyers. They're called foe destroyers because they've defeated things like attachment, but yet the bliss of meditative absorption is so powerful that they can remain there for a very, very long time, and they need to be roused eventually. And Jepadi? Yoribes. Oh, sorry. So Geshe is saying, yeah, okay. So I think I may have said something wrong, Carol, so my apologies in the beginning. So what he's saying is the 8th level bodhisattvas, right, they have not yet completely eliminated the latency of attachment. So there could be some latency of attachment that is still present that is keeping them there. I apologize. I said that wrongly. So there could be some latency of attachment that is holding them there. But remember, we say that for the later stage bodhisattvas, the attachment, although we categorize this as an affliction, practically it doesn't function as something that hinders the bodhisattvas. The attachment actually is something that helps them in their contribution to the welfare of sentient beings. Did we get an answer to you somewhere in all that, Carol, or no? Can't hear you.
Just the last thing you said helps them in the.
The latency of attachment that some of these bodhisattvas have, although we categorize attachment as an affliction, practically the attachment is something that is going to enhance their wish to help sentient beings.
Why? How?
Karichane, dechak koronso kandes pengiris, juncture sembadenso. So one reason, if you think of the lay bodhisattva, is because they can give birth to children who are also bodhisattvas. So that's one way of understanding. And it also semshin tamje dechak yotsang konso semshin tamje robache shucho. Yeah. Right. So if they want to give birth to bodhisattvas in human form that are not merely emanations, then, right, that attachment is going to help them in the procreative process to do that. So the thing is that, like high-level bodhisattvas, they can do emanation bodies, but sometimes, right, it's going to be more beneficial for them to give rise to other bodhisattvas in human form.
Okay, so, and what this also shows is that all the way along the path we need Sangha to wake us up if we need it, yeah?
Then nganso keo yana nganso lamla dradu nganso gendun kunchu gogyeres karinse na nganso semchuk chadu nganso nyamle ma chena konso nganso ni da puchik se gogere to us. Yes. Yeah. So we can think they're acting in that helper way for us. Yes, our friends, our Sangha friends.
Thank you. I hope we all wake up. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol. And Marjorie, go ahead.
Hi, I hope this makes sense, but when you were talking about the Buddhas of this fortunate eon, I'm wondering if when I die, and if I don't want to wait until Maitreya Buddha appears, in the meantime, if I were able or had the ability, would I be able to go to another world system and study with the Buddha who's teaching there?
Yes, I got your question. It makes sense. Yeah. Nganso perna Marjorie sena nganso tanda di kandeslaugaret kelpa di roa tongtra chi sange yores roa ine perna nganso nyamlan katsu che tubna sangi gopang led to samares ane che nyamya gi tutsu lebna dene nganso kewa jema munla myapo jamna dene jigten jendagro tubia nganso gewa jambako tutsi rinpo mato pegio mares di gude ning midrona na nganso jigten jendagla keshos ane sange yopegi jigten la kena dene mutune nyamlen che tugire samlo tangna di soya yorebesa
ya teo sono to chogre tene o ta karsekar ya tedo zayar was chito tedo zayar.
So this can happen. So Geshe is saying like this can happen, right? That like if the dharma is eclipsing in this realm, you don't want to wait for Maitreya, that you could be reborn in a world system where there is a Buddha. So this can it is something that could happen. Yeah. Yeah. Ale usung jikten di mare jikten jenda rebes. Ale los. Yeah. And so and those aspirations can go across lifetimes. So if we think of Shariputra, for example, we know that he was a disciple of the Buddha Kashyapa, right? One of the previous Buddhas of this eon. He wasn't able to reach realization, so he made the prayer that when the Buddha comes into this world, may I be born in his entourage or whatever and continue to enlightenment. So we can make those kind of aspirational prayers as well. So it's kind of the same principle that you if you have sufficient karma, you make this strong aspiration that I want to be reborn in a world where there is a Buddha teaching, so that I can practice directly under them and achieve realization, then that is a valid aspiration.
I guess I'm wondering too. Thank you. But are the 1,000 Buddhas that we talked about, are they part of just this world system, or does that?
Or different? Yeah. Nganso di kandeslaugre di kelpa di tongtrak chikgi sangye din so kongso jikten degarang res kongso kashe jikten jendagla chung tugires. This world system, Marjorie. This world system.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Dave, did you have something else? I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have Greg doesn't have a microphone, but he's typed a question that I'll ask for him. So this is regarding the example of prisoners, whether the prisoners, they have only months to live, and should they be, should these prisoners chill or should they be striving, right?
Yes, I remember that. Right? Yep.
So the question Greg has is, if the prisoners continue to act out of fear and ignorance, how should they be treated? Should they be restrained or prevented from causing others harm?
Dene genguma tsumpa gi pechikure duas. Geshe is joking because I can never pronounce that word for prison correctly. It has like a high tone and he never knows what I'm saying. So I did like kind of like a really high tone so we get it. Tsumpa din so rua. He says I'm complaining. No, I welcome the correction. Anyways, tsumpa din so koron so triwachi tangso rua. Konso perna dawachik mato tutsu mena cheronso lele chene dena digires kaju maju soya yagadus. Dene perna tsumpa denso parsu nupa mambo kiena dene dagbodi nupa kia koyagi chedu konso chik damna digirebes konso chik nyepa tena digirebes di kandes chik sogares.
Ya ta jendal kange chik so na okari na tejil nyepa tes denda nyepa meba so yala ta.
Yeah, so Geshe said, you have to be cautious, of course, but if you identify who the main instigators of the violence or the conflict are, and you mete out an appropriate punishment or isolate them as a way of protecting the others, yes, you could do that. But Geshe says, also true compassion means considering the situation of the perpetrator as well, right? That if you isolate them for too long, if you punish them too severely, that could create suffering, which could, make them even more difficult future, So they're also worthy of compassion. So in fact, this question was a common one that was posed to the Buddha, because when the Buddha was abiding in this world in India, there were many kings, right? India was a land of many, many, many different kingdoms. And so the kings would sometimes approach the Buddha and they would say, you know, Blessed One, there are many who are causing strife, causing suffering in my kingdom. So how should such persons be dealt with? Is it that we should not give them any punishment at all? Loso. Yeah. So in one of the sutras, the Buddha's answer was, yes, punishment can be meted out as a way of protecting the other subjects in the kingdom. But do not use punishment such as creating a wound, such as cutting off the eye, such as cutting off a finger. Because of course we're talking 2,000 years ago, right? Those were very common punishments. So the Buddha said, don't do those kind of punishments. Do not punish them in any way that would harm their sense faculties or their body. This was the Buddha's instruction. But to give them a different kind of punishment as a way of ensuring that others are protected, as a way of discouraging bad behavior, this is permitted. Yeah, so lots of discussion about that as well. I don't see any hands that are up, so I think we have...
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Suzette. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, it's short. I won't keep you from lunch too long. The 1,000 Buddhas to come that are in this world with the system, would they not be, or possibly are the bodhisattvas of today are the future Buddhas of the 1,000? Well, 996.
Yeah. The ones yet to come, the 996. Yeah. So are the people? Let me just make sure I understood you correctly. So could the bodhisattvas of today become one of these 996 Buddhas in the future?
Right.
Yeah. Nganso tanda kalpadila roa sangye chitong yores tanda gubja gubshugo truk lakma yores tanda Jangchub Sempa Yimpe gi Kangsak Denso Koronso Maomba gi Sangye Gubja Gubshugo Truk Nangola Yong Sigirebes?
Tedu Paji Margo, so the Matsanda Marajra. Pena Lamazon Capatunus Sojikarina Chi, as you are. That's your one.
So Geshe said, actually, this is a question that he's not sure he can answer definitively. He could say it is possible. Yes, it is possible that those who are bodhisattvas today could become Buddhas in the future, but there's also certain Buddhas who are prophesized that are in Pure Lands now who will come as a future Buddha. So Lama Tsongkhapa is the being who is Lama Tsongkhapa that we know kind of now, right? He is going to become one of the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon. So that's prophesized in some texts. Yeah. So he can say, the answer to your question, Suzette, is that yes, it could be, but he's not sure if that's how it will actually play out. Yeah.
Okay. What had me think that was that Geshe mentioned that they were of this world system.
Yes,
so
yes.
It led me to think, well then, maybe Geshe is a future Buddha. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Let's hope. But
no, I understand your logic though, Suzette. That makes sense because like the ones who are in this world system would be most connected to it. So if there's going to be future world system Buddhas, anybody here, like whether Geshe or anyone else, could become one of those, right?
Right.
Yeah. Jigten di chitongi sange yinsang. Jigten di dang rabo shuk chempo yoba gi jangshu senpa chi chena Geshe la gubshu go chugi nang la mamba gi sange cha. So I proposed that Geshe to him that he could be maybe one of the future Buddhas, and that was why he laughed. So I don't think you're going to get much more of an answer than that. So Geshe said, there is hope, Suzette, if all of us bring forth bodhicitta, there is hope that all of us could be one of those future Buddhas. He'll say it like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Suzette. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we will be back here next week. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much, everybody. Tashitele.
Thank you.
Tuche nang, tuche.
Thank you.